Hello and welcome back to the unit tutorial for History Year 1, Unit 2, Transport and Travel. This is video part 2. This video will walk you through the following areas: how to adapt activities and lessons, how to plan for the Enquiry question, and key moments within the unit to look out for. Adapting activities can be easily done by using the ebook workbook and the snipping tool to paste the activity onto a Word or Publisher document and edit it. From there, you can print it and stick the adapted activity into your exercise book or directly over the workbook original activity. You may be familiar with the snip tool, but it can be found by searching in the search bar or simultaneously pressing Windows, Shift and S. Drag your mouse to highlight the area you want to copy, and that selection of your screen can be copied onto your clipboard and then onto your Word or Publisher document. I'm going to run through the activities in the workbook from lesson 1 to 10 and give suggestions on how you may adapt them. You don't have to use my examples or even adapt a tool, but these are suggestions for ways in which you could. In lesson 1, pupils need to go out of school and note down the different types of transport they can see. Then, in their workbooks, they need to draw responses to the questions. Support pupils by adding photos of the transport taken from your trip, or after the trip, print and stick the 2 types of transport spotted. Pupils could colour them in. Give pupils images of transport to copy, or pupils could circle their usual type of transport. As a challenge activity, ask pupils to label their drawings. In lesson 2, pupils need to use the additional resource to sort the transport cards into the correct groups, past, both, or present. Support pupils by cutting the images out in advance, by adding an example to each box, by adding the label past, both, or present beneath each image, and challenge pupils by asking them to label their drawings. In lesson 3, pupils need to sort the boats into the diagram, past, both, or present. Support pupils again by cutting the images out in advance and adding examples to the diagram. Challenge pupils by asking them to verbally explain their choices. In lesson 4, pupils need to draw a line to match the image to what powers them. Then they need to draw a modern train in the empty box. Support pupils by partially completing as a model so pupils have more time to be successful. And for increased support, you could add dotted lines for pupils to draw over. You could also add the train outlines for pupils to colour in. Challenge: ask pupils which type of power would make a vehicle move fastest and why. In lesson 5, pupils need to draw one thing that changed when trains got better and faster. Support pupils by having images printed out for them to copy, by adding an outline for pupils to add to or to colour in. Challenge pupils by asking them to label their drawing. In lesson 6, pupils need to draw a picture of an old car in the box below. Then they need to answer the questions: how are the old and modern cars similar, and how are they different? They could do this verbally or by writing it. Support pupils by adding the outline of the old car and by giving pupils an old car image to copy. You could also ask pupils to verbally explain the similarities and differences. But as a challenge, they could write them instead. In lesson 7, pupils are given the images of bicycles on a timeline and the bicycle names. They need to add the bicycle names to the timeline. To support pupils, use the additional resource labels for pupils to stick in. You could add some keywords in as a model, or you could give pupils a starting letter for each box. Challenge pupils by asking them to write the names in rather than using the labels. In lesson 8, pupils are given 5 boxes over 2 pages to put the aircrafts in order from oldest to most modern. Support pupils by adding the oldest or the most modern images to the workbook in advance. Add numbers to each box and corresponding image. And as a challenge, you could ask pupils to label each aircraft. In Lesson 9, pupils need to sort the sentences by whether they are an advantage or a disadvantage of having an underground. Support pupils by using the additional resource sheet for pupils to cut the labels out and stick them in. You could also add an example to each column. For further support, you could add a thumbs up or down to the columns and labels. Challenge pupils by asking them if they'd like to already like travelling on the underground and explain why. In the final lesson of this unit, pupils are asked to draw lines to match who landed where. To heavily support pupils, add dotted lines for pupils to draw over, and challenge them by asking them to explain how they know or to add a label under the left-hand image. To recap, after Lesson 10, pupils will then answer the inquiry question, how has transport changed over time? To support teachers implementing the inquiry question, we have created an inquiry question support document. Here you can find the information you will need and an additional activity for pupils to complete. This could support them as a planning activity, be a recap of the entire unit knowledge to refresh memories before the assessment, or be edited into the assessment itself. The inquiry question for this unit, the inquiry question support document for this unit, can be found with the other resources on Oxford OWL. We recommend before teaching the unit, you decide on how you want pupils to complete their inquiry question. This could be an extended write, a poster, a presentation, a question paper, a multiple choice quiz, or whatever best suits your class. When you've made this decision, complete it yourself to be aware of any challenges or adaptations you may need to make. For every unit, there are elements that will need to be planned in advance by the class teacher. Print the knowledge quiz booklet for pupils and plan where you will keep them between lessons. This could be in a pile with you or slipped into the front of the workbooks. You'll need to plan an engaging hook. How will you get pupils interested and engaged in the learning to come? You may need to print off any additional resources per lesson. Examples of these are group task sorting lessons, etc. And gather resources for specific lessons by looking through the unit planning guidance. Hopefully you now feel confident about accessing and teaching this unit. Any questions, please send to primarymastery@curriculumplus.org.uk, and we welcome all feedback to ensure that these resources are as supportive as possible for you and your pupils.